Welcome to today's lecture. As you know, we have started a series on pet foods. The first lecture was basics about the pet foods, and today's topic is basics of pet nutrition and how the meat and byproducts are important. Because we are going to talk in details about pet foods by using the meat or particularly the byproducts, so it is important to know the basics of pet nutrition, and at a later time I will talk more details about the nutritional standards in a separate lecture. In this series later we will talk another lecture on use of byproducts in pet food, and further another lecture on processing of pet foods by using the meat and byproducts, and finally one more lecture on quality aspects and regulatory aspects of pet foods. So in today's lecture I will talk very basics about the pet nutrition, covering the nutritional requirements of pets, especially the dog and cat. The pet includes sometimes some reptiles and birds, which we are not focusing here because they don't need much of non-vegetarian, particularly in case of birds. And we will talk here particularly for dogs and cats, their essential nutrients requirements, the feeding strategies for dogs and cats, the feeding chart or maybe a food pyramid for pets, and also about the dietary requirements or formulation. And later I will talk little details about the different nutrients like proteins, the characteristics and chemistry and role of protein and amino acids. Further I will talk about the fats and fatty acids and their role in nutrition. Later I will talk about the carbohydrates and its role and the fibers from the carbohydrate. And finally I will talk about the vitamins and minerals, the fat soluble vitamins, the water soluble vitamins, and finally the minerals like macro minerals and micro minerals. So overall a basic understanding about the pet nutrition which is required for the formulation of pet foods by using the meat and byproducts. First, let us understand the nutritional needs of pets. The pet nutrition focuses on providing a balanced diet of essential nutrients, which includes protein, fat, carbohydrate. These three are the major requirement, and then the minor requirement or micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, and of course water is one of the most important large amount of requirements. So these nutrients are important to maintain a pet's health, energy level, growth and immunity. The key aspects here for pet nutrition is including the high quality pet food in the preparation of pet nutrition, and in which we need to include specific ingredients considering the pet's life stage and individual needs. So stage of life or age and the individual needs, these two should be kept in mind while selecting the ingredients, which will ensure the proper hydration and avoiding the toxic foods. So in this aspect, one of the important organization which recommends the proper nutritional requirements for pets are the Association of American Feed Control Officials, or in short AFCO. So they categorize the important nutrients and their functions of dogs, and they also give the specific nutritional standard for each nutrient for different category of pets and their age. Of course, that we will discuss in a separate lecture. Here we will discuss about the essential nutrients for pets. As I have already mentioned, first is the protein, which is essential for building and repairing cells, supporting skin and muscle organ and tissue health. Then the fat, which provides the majorly the energy and carry essential fat soluble vitamins, promoting healthy skin and shiny coat. Then carbohydrates, mainly carbohydrate is the major source of energy, and another aspect the complex carbohydrates which are called fibers, which aids in digestion and waste elimination. Then in the micronutrient, vitamins and minerals, they are crucial for various body functions or physiology, including vision, organ health, and strong immune system. And finally, water. Of course, water is a large important requirement for body functions or physiological function, and it needs a constant supply of fresh clean water whenever necessary. So I am going to talk all these nutrients in more details at a later time. Here briefly let us understand the feeding strategies for dogs and cats. The one is traditional feeding, that is the commercially prepared like canned, dry, semi-moist, grain and meat based, then moderate protein, fat and fiber. So these things we have discussed in the first lecture of different kind of pet foods, the basics. And the non-traditional feeding strategies like homemade or home prepared, they can be raw or cooked or mixing of the commercial premixes. There are commercial cooked traditional ingredients are used for feeding, or commercial raw pet foods are available, and commercial grain free and exotic pet foods are available. This is just a brief understanding about the feeding strategies on traditional or non-traditional type. Here we will see the dog nutrition chart, or we can see the food pyramid for the dogs. In this pyramid, at the base is the water, that is the largest requirement, and second largest is the protein, which could be mostly from animal origin is better, but some can be vegetable origin, that is egg, meat, fish, poultry, like that. And then there is carbohydrates coming from different kind of grains, then fats and oils from different vegetable origin or can be animal origin also, then fiber from the vegetables and fruits, then vitamins and minerals required in a very less quantity. So vitamins and minerals are in the top, that is the lowest requirement, lowest in quantity, but they are very important. And the water is at the bottom, that is the largest amount required. In the left side we can see the percentage. So carbohydrate requirement is 45%, which can be rice, potato, oatmeal, millet, chickpeas, rye or barley. Then next is the protein. It can be both plant and animal origin, but plant origin is less important in case of these dogs and pets. So it can be mainly from eggs, fish, beef, milk and chicken. And the fats, it can be both from plant and animal origin, mostly chicken or fish oil and pork fat, sometimes canola oil or other vegetable oil can be used. Here we will see a thumb rule for commercial formulation of pet foods, which will on an average have 40% carbohydrate from barley, rice, oats, sorghum or millet, about 30% protein, which can be from chicken, turkey, pork, fish, beef, even some eggs. Then 20% fats, which can be mostly from animal origin and to some extent from plant origin, which includes the omega-3 fatty acid, which is very, very important. Then 6% fiber, that is though under carbohydrate, but this is a special kind of carbohydrate which is not digestible, non-digestible complex carbohydrates, which can be from vegetable origin and some grains, and moisture about 4%. So this is about the dry dog foods, is a rough formulation, and which will have water only about 4 to 5%. Here we will see the maintenance diet specifications by the regulatory authorities. Particularly here we should know that there is slight differences in dogs and cats. The cats are specifically considered as carnivores, so they must have only non-vegetarian type of foods with minimum vegetarian or cereals included, but major is non-vegetarian is a must. So they need to be supplied taurine, a particular amino acid, sulfur containing amino acid or sulfoxide, and this is very important for the function of heart and eye health, and it also needs the water content, weight or hydration for its dietary planning. Whereas in case of dogs, it is not strictly carnivores, it can be considered as omnivores, and it can be provided with vegetarian diet or survive, and also with non-vegetarian diet, but the common practice is to include the animal origin proteins and also plant origin combination. So in case of dogs, it needs a mix of protein, fat and carbohydrate with a portion adjusted on size, breed and activity depending on the body weight and breed and activity. So here is a specification in case of adult dog as per BIS and as per APCO. The moisture is 10% in both the cases. The crude protein 24 in case of BIS and 22 in case of APCO. In crude fat, it is 5% in BIS and 8% in APCO, and crude fiber 5% in BIS and 4% APCO. So this is a standard specification by the authorities in India, BIS and international APCO for basic understanding about the nutritional requirement in dog food. Now we will talk little bit details about the each nutrients, little bit about their chemistry and their role in the physiology, that is to understand the nutritional requirement about the pet foods. So first is about the protein or dietary protein. As I mentioned, in case of dog, it is animal origin proteins are important, but in case of cat, it is much more important. They are mostly required animal origin protein. So proteins are added in most of these commercial pet foods, and the correct balance of amino acid or proportion in the protein is very important. So protein quality depends on the ratio or proportion of different essential amino acids. Greater the protein quality and less is the needed. That is, if the protein quality is good, then the requirement of protein will be less. Now this protein quality depends on the proportion of all the amino acids. And another important aspect is the digestibility of protein. So plant origin cereals and pulses, they are having enough amount of protein, but the digestibility is less and distribution of some amino acid is deficient, so they are not good quality protein. Here we will understand little bit about the chemistry of protein. So proteins are actually the polymerization of amino acids. So large number of amino acids are joined together by bonds, that is called peptide bonds. But for each protein, the number of amino acid and their sequence is fixed. So there are about 20 primary amino acids. Those amino acids will be joined in a specific combination and in number that makes a particular protein. So they can be in different shape and size, and complex molecules can be there or variety can be there by conjugation. So sometimes it is glycoprotein where protein is conjugated with carbohydrates. Sometimes there is lipoproteins where protein is conjugated with lipids. Here a little bit we will understand about the protein quality. So that is indicated as biological value of protein, and this biological value, it depends on the distribution of amino acids. So all proteins are not equal in worth. The proportion used for growth and maintenance of normal body system is measure of its biological value. So this depends on the distribution of amino acids or essential amino acids. So there is a difference in this quality or presence of these amino acids in plant origin proteins and animal origin proteins. So all the animals need certain amino acids to be supplied from outside or through food. That's why they are called as essential amino acids. So these essential amino acids are more proportionally present in all the proteins coming from animal origin. Whereas the proteins coming from the plant origin, they will be deficient in some or the other amino acids. So such proteins are of low quality or low biological value. Further, these proteins coming from the plant origin are having less digestibility. That is why the pet foods must have major component of protein from the animal origin, and particularly in case of cat, it must be majorly mostly from the animal origin protein. Now briefly we will understand about the role of proteins and amino acids. So this is very important for maintenance of muscles, bones, blood, organs, skin and coat. So everywhere there is need of protein, but every animal has to synthesize its own protein. So when we eat it through food, it will be broken by the enzymes and only amino acids will be absorbed. Now these amino acids will be supplied for protein synthesis in the cell as per the requirement. So every tissue needs the supply of amino acids. So without proper levels of essential amino acids, the synthesis of protein is affected, and which may affect the growth or other physiological activity of the pets. So in case of adult dogs, essential amino acids helps and supports the normal healthy systems, including the immunity, the reproduction and other activity. So proteins in the food or in the pet food is very important, and quality of protein is extremely important, because if the high quality protein means it is having high biological value, it is having the better supply of all the essential amino acids, so then the system will get all the amino acids required for the synthesis of its protein, which is required for different purposes. Here is the list of amino acids recommended by UPSC for the dogs. Actually, they need 9 amino acids as essential. It is same as human, whereas for other animal it is 11. That is 2 extra, that is the valine and glycine. Whereas in this case there is 9 in case of dogs, that is arginine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine and tryptophan. So these are the essential amino acids for the dogs, which must be supplied through the food. That depends on the quality of the protein. If the quality of protein is good from animal origin, that will have sufficient quantity of all these amino acids. Now we will learn about the fats or lipids. So they are the major store of energy. Whenever the carbohydrate taken extra, it is converted to fat, so it provides and store energy, make up cell membrane. So cell membrane is very important, and that plays a major biological role for entry and exit of all the molecules and signals, and then it is acting as a signaling agent and also as hormone. Many hormones are originating from the fats, especially from the cholesterol. There are some fatty acids which are essential, like I told, for the amino acids. So these amino acids must be supplied through food. So they are like linoleic, linolenic and arachidonic. These are all unsaturated fatty acid, sometimes alpha linoleic acid. So these fatty acids are called essential fatty acids. Again, the foods of animal origin or fats of animal origin are the best source of all these essential fatty acids. Of course, some of the seeds like flaxseed etc. also rich in this, or the fish oil is the best source some of this fatty acid like omega-3 fatty acid. Now briefly we will explain about the fat structure and fatty acid characteristics. So fatty acids are mostly of 3 categories in terms of length, that is the number of carbon present. They are called short chain fatty acid, medium chain fatty acid and long chain fatty acid. Short chain fatty acid means the number of carbon atoms will be 2 to 6, whereas medium chain means 8 to 12 and the long chain means 14 to 24. So short chain fatty acid, they are mostly the building blocks like acetic, butyric, like that. In case of goat milk it is there, capric, caprolic, like that. Then medium chain triglycerides, they are mostly found in the milk or coconut oil. They are less palatable than the long chain fatty acids, whereas long chain fatty acids present mostly as triglycerides. They are the major or most common. As I already mentioned, the linoleic, linolenic and arachidonic, the essential fatty acids, they are the long chain fatty acids, and their presence makes the fats more soft or liquid. So fatty acid saturation, this is another important characteristics of fat or fatty acid. They can be saturated, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Saturated means the fatty acid, there will be no double bonds. Between 2 carbon atom, there is no double bonds. That is called saturated. They are proportionally little higher in case of animal fat, particularly from red meat. Whereas monounsaturated fats, they are comparatively good for health. They have got very good characteristics for physiological functions like only one double bond like oleic acid or palmitoleic acid. Then there is polyunsaturated fatty acid. So they will have more than two double bonds. And that's, in this case, the length of the carbon chain will be more than 18, 20, 24. All the essential fatty acids are mostly polyunsaturated fatty acid, and because of their more presence, the fat becomes liquid, so they become oil. Similarly, the omega-3 fatty acid, omega-6, omega-9, they are all long chain fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now we will see the role of fats and fatty acids. The fats are mainly made up of fatty acids. Generally, they are in the form of triglycerides. So there is a glycerol with 3 hydroxyl group, and each hydroxyl group will be bound with a fatty acid by forming ester linkage. So these 3 fatty acid with glycerol, it is called triglycerides. Now fatty acids are the most concentrated source of energy for the body, and there are essential fatty acids which I have already mentioned. Generally they will be long chain and mostly polyunsaturated fatty acid. So these essential fatty acid must be supplied from outside through the food, and they have very important biological or physiological functions, especially for immunity, for vision, for maintaining healthy skin and hair coat. So these essential fatty acids are very important for health. Now we will briefly talk about the carbohydrates and later about its role. So carbohydrate is the major source of energy, and also it is the building blocks for other nutrients. As I mentioned earlier, there is glycoprotein. So the glycogen or carbohydrate combining with the protein. Similarly, there is glycolipid, the carbohydrate binding conjugated with some kind of lipid. So there it is a building blocks. Now this carbohydrate can be simple and complex. Simple means like monosaccharides, disaccharides, etc. So maltose, glucose, sucrose and fructose, of which glucose is most common, and the fructose is coming from the fruits. Sucrose is coming from the cane sugar. The complex carbohydrate, they are the polymer of all these simple carbohydrates. So they are either starch or glycogen. Starch is coming mostly from the plant origin, and some of them are very complex and not digestible. They are called the fibers, which we will talk little later. Now any starch or glycogen, after digestion it will make glucose, and that glucose will go to cells and it will be metabolized for producing energy. But whenever there is no need of glucose for energy, then it will be converted into glycogen in the animal body or human body, and it will be stored as glycogen. So this glycogen will be stored either in muscles or in liver for future use. Now we will see the role of carbohydrates. As I have already mentioned, carbohydrates are the ready source of energy for all body activity. We need energy for movement and other activity, and it also helps in sparing the protein. If carbohydrate is there for energy, protein will be saved. If carbohydrate is not there, there can be breakdown of protein. Further, there is a special type of carbohydrate, as I have mentioned, they are called fibers. They are the complex carbohydrates which are not digestible, but they have very important role in the physiology, both for monogastric animals and also for human. So these fibers play important role in gut health. They support the proper growth of microbiome and healthy atmosphere in the gut, and also maintaining the healthy profile of the microbiome. So that's how the fibers play a very important role in good health, particularly in the gut health. Here we will see little more details about the fiber. So they are often coming under the carbohydrate, but it is not digestible. So our normal digestible enzymes cannot break them into sugars or glucose. So technically sometimes it may not be considered as nutrient, but it is very important for good health, both for pets and humans. And the characteristic of the fibers is they are not digestible, and mostly it comes from the plant origin. The complex carbohydrate or starch which is not digestible, they are the fiber. They can be soluble or insoluble, but both has beneficial role. So they are going to our guts, and it is the food for the microbes, and that helps in growing the healthy microbes, and that plays an important role in our physiological function. So that's how the fiber is very important. Now we will talk about the vitamins and minerals. So these are considered as micronutrients. So earlier we have discussed about the macronutrients, which are required in larger quantity like protein, fat, carbohydrate, whereas vitamins and minerals, they are very important, but they are required in less quantity, so they are called as micronutrients. So first we will see about the vitamins, their functions and source briefly. So they are important in metabolic processes. They prevent deficiency syndromes. Many diseases will happen due to the deficiency of some particular vitamins. They are found both in animal and plant tissues, but some can be synthesized. Some vitamins are more commonly available from animal origin food. The requirements will be differing. So in case of human or dog and cat, the how much required, it is different. And they are broadly classified into two categories. One is fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K. Because they are fat soluble, they can be stored or accumulate in the fat. So they need not be supplied on a daily basis. Whereas there are some category of vitamins which are water soluble, particularly B vitamins. There are several in number, we will see later, and vitamin C and even K. They are water soluble, so they cannot be stored. They are excreted, so they should be supplied on regular basis. On the other side, let us see about the minerals and their functions. They are used in metabolic processes. They play important role in structural support, that is the skeleton or bone. So calcium and phosphorus is very important for that. Then they are mostly inorganic elements, and their classification is difficult, but based on the requirement they are classified into two categories: macro minerals and micro minerals. Macro minerals means they are required in a larger quantity. Micro minerals, they are required in a very less quantity. They are also called as trace elements. We will see little more details of both vitamins and minerals. Now we will see about the role of fat soluble vitamins. The first one is vitamin A, which is very important. It is essential for cell development, growth, vision and immune function. The second one is cholecalciferol, that is vitamin D3. Nowadays there is lot of deficiency in the human being also. It supports in calcium metabolism and in skeletal growth. Then vitamin E, which is also called as alpha tocopherol, and it serves as a natural antioxidant which helps in scavenging the free radicals and supports the immune system and a healthy skin and coat. The last one in this category is vitamin K, which is also called as anti-hemorrhagic factor. This is very important in protein synthesis and also involved in blood clotting and bone formation. So these four vitamins, fat soluble, which can be stored in fat, so need not be supplied on day-to-day basis or regular basis, and some of them are good amount available from the animal origin food. Now we will discuss about the water soluble vitamins. The first is the thiamine or vitamin B1. It plays a role in energy metabolism and nerve tissue maintenance and growth. Riboflavin B2 supports the process of releasing energy from food. Then pantothenic acid B3 is a necessary for component in metabolizing fats and carbohydrates into energy. Then choline is important in fat metabolism, neurotransmission and liver function. And pyridoxine B5 serves as a coenzyme in the metabolism of energy sources. So all these B vitamins are comparatively good source in meat and meat origin byproducts. So that's how the meat and byproducts is very important component for pet foods. In continuation about the water soluble vitamins, the another one is vitamin B12, which is also called as cyanocobalamin. It is a very important vitamin, supports the metabolism of fatty acids and proteins, and its absence or deficiency causes some kind of anemia, which is called pernicious anemia. So animal origin food like liver is a very good source for this vitamin B12 and other B vitamins. The next one is folic acid, which is necessary in the metabolism of amino acids and proteins and supports the cell membranes. Then biotin is an essential cofactor within the metabolic process. And then the ascorbic acid or vitamin C. This is again help and support dogs' healthy immune system, joints, cartilage, and also it is an antioxidant. So the folic acid and biotin, again it is present in as a good source in meat or byproducts. Of course, vitamin C is very less in foods of animal origin. Now we will talk about the dietary requirements of minerals for the pet foods or in the pet nutrition. So as I mentioned, the vitamins and minerals are required in a very less quantity, so they are considered as micronutrients. Now here about 12 minerals are essential for dogs and cats, of which some of them are required a little larger and expressed in grams, whereas others are required in a very less quantity and they are expressed requirement in micrograms. So those which are required in grams, they are considered as macro minerals like calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium and chloride. So calcium and phosphorus is very important in the skeletal growth, and other magnesium, etc., potassium also very important. So all these are very good source from meat and byproducts. Now we will see the role of macro minerals. The first is the sodium and chloride. Both play a key role in maintaining the balance of fluid in cells, that is the fluid and electrolyte balance, and that impacts the blood pressure and kidney function. Even in the every cell, the concentration of sodium inside the cell is very important, and the potassium maintain the electrolyte balance in the cells and its involvement in nerve transmission. So mostly the concentration of potassium will be more in the outside the cell, that is the outer fluid of the cell. And then calcium and phosphorus, they work together in the body to support bone development, nerve impulse transmission and muscular contraction. So calcium is very important in muscle contraction, and also calcium phosphorus together makes the skeleton. And the last one is the magnesium. It also supports in electrolyte balance inside the cells and bone structure and integrity. So these four macro minerals has very important role in the health and physiology of the pets. Now we will see about the role of trace minerals. So they are required in a very small quantity in microgram, so they are also called as trace elements. The first one is iron, supports the synthesis of hemoglobin, that is the red blood cell. Inside there is the iron, that is in hemoglobin, at the center there is iron, and myoglobin, that is the pigment in muscle. In both cases it plays important role for carrying the oxygen. Then zinc, it supports the skin integrity and it is the part of many enzymes and it has very important role. Similarly, manganese, essential to energy metabolism and supports healthy bones, and it is also part of some enzymes. Then iodine supports thyroid hormone, so that thyroid hormone is a very important hormone in the physiology and metabolism. And then selenium. The selenium serves as an antioxidant inside cells, works in tandem with iodine to support thyroid function. So these 4-5 trace elements, iron, zinc, manganese, iodine, selenium, even copper, they are called as the trace elements, but they are very important for physiological function and health. So now we are at the end of today's lecture. So today we have discussed about the basics of pet nutrition for understanding the pet foods preparation. So here we are mainly focused on use of meat and byproducts in pet food preparation, for which we need to understand the basics of pet foods. So here we have discussed about the nutritional requirements, the essential nutrients for pet foods, especially dogs and cats, the strategies of feeding, the feeding chart or pyramid, the some of the formulation, the basic thumb rules or nutrients, and then we have discussed in details about important or macronutrients like proteins, its role, characteristics, chemistry and details. Then we have discussed about the fats, its structure and chemistry and role in physiology. And then we have discussed about carbohydrates, little details about the fibers. And then we have discussed about the micronutrients like vitamins and minerals. We have discussed about the fat soluble vitamins and water soluble vitamins. And then we have discussed about the minerals. They are in two categories, the macro minerals and micro minerals, and their individual role in the health and physiology. So this understanding will help us in understanding about the pet foods, and mean the meat and byproducts, how it is important in the pet food. And in the latter we are going to discuss the use of meat and byproducts in the pet foods. Thank you.